The day was blistering hot, and the streets shimmered as though the asphalt itself were melting. People hurried along the sidewalks, eager to slip into cool cafes and luxury boutiques that lined the glittering avenue. Among them walked a young woman, tall, confident in her stride, but dressed in something that instantly made her stand out. A bright red dress that clung to her curves, paired with heels that clicked against the pavement like a drumbeat announcing her arrival. It wasn't the kind of refined elegance the boutiques on this street were used to. Her look was bold, daring, magnetic. Some turned heads in admiration, while others curled their lips in disapproval. And it was this very contrast that would spark the chaos of the day. The boutique she stopped in front of was the crown jewel of the block, Maison du Luxe. A store dripping with exclusivity, velvet ropes, and doors guarded not just by glass and metal, but by unspoken judgments about who belonged inside. As she paused, adjusting the strap of her small handbag, a security guard raised his brows, his smirk practically dripping with disdain. "Miss," he said in a tone that was more mockery than respect, "this isn't really the kind of place for people dressed like that." His voice carried just enough to make two women nearby snicker. One of them whispered loudly enough for her to hear. What is she even thinking? This is Maison du Luxe, not some nightclub. The young woman's lips curved into the faintest smile, not one of amusement, but of patience. The kind of smile you give when you know something others don't. Without responding, she stepped toward the door. "Excuse me, ma'am." The guard's voice grew sharper, his arm shooting out to block her. "Unless you've got a serious appointment, or money to burn," he scoffed, eyeing her from head to toe, "you should probably try somewhere else." The snickering grew louder, and now, several customers exiting the store stopped to watch. A scene was brewing, and everyone loved a public humiliation, as long as it wasn't theirs. But here's the thing. In that moment, as the bold-dressed girl stood before the arrogant guard and judgmental crowd, nobody knew her name. Nobody knew her story. Nobody had the faintest idea that in just a few hours, the balance of power on the street would flip upside down. Why was this girl here? Why was she smiling instead of snapping back? And what secret was she holding that made her so calm in the face of mockery? "Sir," she finally spoke, her voice soft but sharp enough to slice through the laughter. "Last I checked, boutiques like this make money by selling to customers. Or, have the rules changed?" Her tone wasn't angry. It was curious, almost playful. But that only fueled the arrogance of the bystanders. "She thinks she's a customer?" Someone chuckled. "With that outfit? Please." The guard straightened his tie, looking smug. "Look, lady, I'm just saving you the embarrassment. The cheapest scarf in here costs more than that dress of yours. Trust me, you'll thank me for turning you away." The bold-dressed girl tilted her head. "Is that so?" She leaned closer, her gaze steady, unflinching. The guard's smirk wavered for just a second. He wasn't used to being looked at like that, as though he were the one being judged. Still, he held his ground. "Yes, that's so." By now, a small crowd had gathered. Phones were out, recording the confrontation. After all, what was better social media content than watching someone out of place get humiliated at the door of luxury? But what none of them realized was that they were the ones about to be humiliated. Why wasn't she backing down? What card was she holding so close to her chest that even the guard's insults didn't faze her? Finally, she straightened her shoulders, flashed that same mysterious smile, and said just 5 words. "Then let's put it to the test." The crowd buzzed. The guard blinked. And before anyone could process what she meant, she slipped past his arm, pushed open the heavy glass door, and walked inside like she owned the place. The air conditioning hit her skin like silk, but more than that, every head inside the boutique snapped toward her. Elegantly dressed customers in designer suits and dresses gave her that same once-over, the silent up-down glare that spoke volumes. One sales associate, tall and impeccably dressed, swooped in instantly. "I'm sorry, miss, but we're very busy with appointments today," she said in a syrupy tone that was polite on the surface, but dripping with dismissal underneath. "Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at one of the lower-range stores nearby." The girl didn't flinch. Instead, she let her eyes drift slowly over the sparkling displays of handbags, shoes, and jewelry. And then she said, almost casually, "Bring me your 10 most expensive dresses. The ones you'd never let anyone touch unless they had a credit card made of gold." The associate blinked, taken aback. "Excuse me? You heard me." There was silence. And then laughter, muffled, disbelieving laughter from 2 other customers sipping champagne in the corner. "Is she serious?" one whispered. "She'll never afford it. This is going to be delicious." The associate hesitated, glancing at the manager. The manager, equally skeptical, gave a small nod. After all, what harm was there in letting her embarrass herself further? And so, moments later, racks of shimmering gowns worth more than most people's annual salaries were wheeled out. The crowd leaned in closer. Phones tilted upward to catch every second. And the girl? She sat down, crossed her legs, and smiled like a queen awaiting her jewels. Why was she so calm? Why did she ask for the most expensive dresses, when everyone expected her to crumble? The answer, though hidden for now, was about to turn this boutique into the stage for one of the most shocking reversals the street had ever seen. The boutique was silent, but it wasn't the silence of respect. It was the silence of people waiting for someone to fail. Every gaze was on the girl in the bold red dress, expecting her to crack at any second. The sales associate smirked as she carefully laid down the first gown, whispering just loud enough for the others to hear. This one is $49,000. Hand-stitched silk, flown in from Milan. Gasps from the watching crowd. A pause. They leaned in, waiting for the girl's wide-eyed shock. But instead, she tilted her head, her lips curling into a smile. Lovely. Show me the next one. The associate froze. The next one? Yes, the girl repeated firmly. I asked for 10. Keep going. Now the boutique was alive with whispers. She didn't even blink. She's bluffing. There's no way she can afford even the buttons on that thing. But the associate, cheeks burning, obeyed. The second gown, $75,000. The third, $85,000. The fourth, $99,000. And finally, the 10th, a shimmering masterpiece worth over $100,000. By then, the room was so quiet you could hear the ticking of the boutique's crystal clock. The girl glanced at the gowns, as if she were picking between desserts on a menu. I'll try them all on, she said. All of them, the associate stammered. Yes, every single one. Why was she pushing so far? Who risks this kind of humiliation unless they're hiding something? Minutes later, the curtains slid open, and the crowd gasped. The girl stepped out in the first gown, a black dress that shimmered like liquid night, every sequin catching the golden light. She didn't look out of place. She didn't look embarrassed. She looked like the boutique was built for her. For the first time, the laughter paused. But not for long. From the corner, a woman holding a champagne flute sneered. Gorgeous gown, wasted on someone like her. The laughter returned. Louder. Crueler. The girl didn't even flinch. She spun slowly, letting the fabric glitter, and then vanished back into the fitting room. When she re-emerged, she wore the second gown. Even more dazzling. Then the third. The fourth. The fifth. By the seventh gown, something had shifted. The crowd wasn't laughing anymore. Their whispers weren't mocking. They were nervous. Because each gown fit her like it was made for her. As though destiny itself had stitched them. Even the associate's arrogance faltered, her voice trembling when she announced the 8th gown's price. And when the curtain opened for the 10th and final gown, silence fell once again. This gown wasn't just clothing, it was a crown. Gold threads shimmered like fire under the boutique's lights. The girl stood tall, unshaken, her chin high. For the first time, the people who mocked her didn't see a bold stranger. They saw a queen. So why was everyone still waiting? Because a gown means nothing if you can't pay for it. And this was the moment they believed she'd finally break. The manager hurried forward, forcing a smile. That gown, madam, is our most exclusive. It is priced at $120,000, she cut him off, her voice calm. I know. I'll take it. The room erupted. You what? She's insane. There's no way. The manager coughed, his smirk creeping back. Very well, madam. But your method of payment? The girl didn't blink. Slowly, deliberately, she reached into her small handbag. The crowd leaned forward, hungry. This was it. The exposure. The humiliation. But instead of fumbling, instead of excuses, she pulled out a sleek, solid black card. Not just any card. The card. The kind only billionaires carried. Unlimited. Untouchable. Recognized in every corner of the world. The associate gasped. The manager's fake smile collapsed. Even the guard outside stumbled back, his face pale. Because suddenly, the girl in the red dress wasn't a joke. She wasn't an outsider. She was the most powerful person in that room. But here's the question nobody dared ask out loud. If she had this kind of power, why had she walked in looking like she didn't belong? What game was she playing? And the shocking answer was still to come. The whispers in the boutique hadn't stopped. Phones were out, cameras were recording, and yet, she walked as though none of it mattered. The bold young woman, her dress gleaming under the crystal lights, paused by a mannequin draped in velvet. She touched the fabric lightly, her expression unreadable. "Don't touch that," sneered one of the employees. "It's imported. Costs more than your entire life." The crowd chuckled. The rich woman who had mocked her earlier folded her arms, smirking like she was waiting for the punchline of a cruel joke. But the girl only smiled. Calm. Collected. And then, she pulled a credit card. But not just any card. No bright plastic, no student debit. A black card. The kind only billionaires carried. The kind that whispered power without words. Gasps rippled across the room. The mocking woman's smirk faltered. That can't be real." The girl tilted her head, still smiling. "Run it." The cashier hesitated. People leaned forward, hungry for the outcome. The machine beeped, green lights flashing, approved. Every laugh in the room died in an instant. But she wasn't finished. Because instead of keeping the dress, the girl turned to a trembling young assistant in the back, the only one who hadn't laughed at her. "Try it on," she said softly. "You deserve better than the scraps they give you." The assistant's eyes filled with tears as she accepted the gift. The room went silent. And then, with a slow, deliberate motion, the mysterious girl pulled a diamond-studded ring from her finger. She placed it on the counter like it weighed the world. The same mocking woman leaned closer, her face pale now. That ring, it looks like." The girl's smile sharpened, dangerous now. "Oh, you recognize it? Good. You'll understand exactly who you've been mocking all this time." The crowd shifted nervously. Some began whispering, "Who is she? What family is she from? Why does she have that ring?" Every second stretched, tension wrapping around the boutique like a noose. And just when the silence felt unbearable, she leaned in, her voice a whisper that somehow carried across the room. "You have no idea what you've just done." The mocking woman staggered back, her arrogance crumbling. Employees who had laughed suddenly bowed their heads. Phones were lowered, because deep down they knew. This wasn't just some girl playing dress-up. This was power, wrapped in beauty, cloaked in mystery. And she wasn't done proving it. Would you have stayed silent like the assistant, or mocked her like the others? Tell me in the comments. I want to know whose side you're on. The room was heavy now. You could almost hear people's hearts pounding. The mocking woman, who moments earlier had laughed the loudest, now clutched her purse like it was her only shield. But the bold young woman didn't even look at her. She stepped forward, heels clicking against the polished marble floor like a war drum. Someone whispered, "She's somebody important. Look at that ring." Another hissed back, "No, that ring isn't just expensive, it's legendary. Only one family in the entire country has it." The mocking woman's face drained of color. She knew. Everyone did. That diamond wasn't jewelry. It was a mark of an empire. Still, the bold young woman said nothing. Instead, she gestured for the young assistant, now standing nervously in the dress she'd been gifted, to step closer. "You see her?" the woman said, her voice ringing sharp. "She's worth more than every cruel word you people spat at me tonight." The assistant's eyes filled again with tears. Around them, silence gripped the crowd tighter. No one dared laugh now. But then, out of nowhere, the mocking woman tried to recover her pride. She forced a brittle laugh. "So what? A card, a ring? Could be fake. Maybe you stole it. People like you." Her words cut off, because the bold young woman had turned fully toward her now, eyes locked, gaze colder than steel. "Say it," she whispered. The mocking woman's throat worked, but no words came. Her arrogance was gone, melted under a weight she couldn't fight. And then, doors at the back of the boutique slammed open. Security entered, but not the boutiques. No, these men wore tailored suits, earpieces, and moved with the silent precision of professionals. The crowd gasped. Phones shot back into the air. One of the suited men approached the bold young woman and bowed his head. "We've been looking for you, Mississippi. Your father is waiting." Her father. That single word crashed over the room like a wave. The assistant's eyes widened. The mocking woman actually stumbled back. Because now, the whispers weren't whispers anymore. They were frantic. "Her father? Wait, is she? She can't be. That ring belongs to the king of real estate. She's his daughter." The mocking woman tried to speak again, but her voice broke. The bold young woman only stepped closer, lowering her voice so the entire room leaned in to hear. "I didn't come here tonight to prove anything to you. I came because I was curious to see how people would treat me when they thought I was nothing." The words cut deeper than any insult. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, guilt hanging heavy in the air. Then, with calm precision, she picked up the ring and slid it back onto her finger. It glittered under the chandeliers, a final nail in the coffin of every laugh and insult hurled at her. She looked around the boutique one last time. Now you know. And with that, she turned, her security escorting her out. But before she left, she paused by the assistant still trembling in the dress. She smiled softly. Keep it. And if anyone dares mock you again, tell them whose side you're on. The assistant broke into sobs, nodding furiously. The mocking woman? She sank into a chair, face pale, lips trembling, her entire world shattered. And the bold young woman walked out, her heels echoing like a queen leaving her throne room. If you were standing in that boutique, would you have joined the crowd, or stood with her? Comment below. I'll be reading every single one. The boutique's glass doors shut behind her, but inside, the echo of her presence lingered like thunder after a storm. No one moved. No one dared breathe too loud. The mocking woman sat frozen, still clutching her purse, while the assistant stood rooted to the floor, hand trembling as she touched the glittering dress. And then, the murmurs began. Did you see her ring? She's that family's daughter. Oh my God. We treated her like trash. The boutique manager, who earlier had smirked along with the insults, now whispered desperately, We're finished. We're all finished. But outside, out on the marble steps beneath the moonlight, the bold young woman finally allowed herself to exhale. She wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't even hurt. Because tonight had given her proof. Proof of why her father had always told her. Power isn't about what you have. It's about how people treat you when they think you have nothing. She turned to her security detail and nodded for them to stand back. Then she faced the assistant, who had hurried outside behind her. Why did you do that for me? The assistant asked, voice trembling. The woman smiled, a softer smile now. Because I saw myself in you. And because every empire needs someone who remembers what it feels like to be underestimated. She handed the assistant a card. Call this number tomorrow. Tell them I sent you. Your life changes starting now. The assistant looked down, and her jaw dropped. The card bore the golden crest of the largest investment firm in the country. Her knees buckled. I don't know what to say. The bold woman squeezed her hand. Then don't say anything. Just promise me one thing. When the world mocks you, don't bend. Make them regret it. And with that, she stepped into a waiting black car, the kind that screamed power without a word. The assistant clutched the card to her chest, tears streaming. But they weren't tears of humiliation anymore. They were tears of hope. Back inside, the mocking woman finally found her voice, whispering into the silence. I mocked the wrong person. Her words carried no laughter now. Only fear. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button right now. And if you believe kindness and strength always win in the end, subscribe, because we have many more powerful stories coming. Also, tell us in the comments. If you were in that boutique, would you have stayed silent, or would you have stood by her?